T-minus 15 seconds and counting.
On May 31st, 2008, Space Shuttle Discovery launched STS-124 to the International Space Station.
2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Discovery. Gambate Kudasai. Best of luck to the International Space Station's newest laboratory.
In the payload bay of Shuttle Discovery was the largest module of the station, the Japanese Expirement module. And aboard in the cabin was Expedition 17 crew member Greg Chamitoff.
Discovery on the proper alignment, heads down, wings level for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the International Space Station. "36 seconds into the flight, the 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back to 72% of rated performance, going in the bucket, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it goes supersonic. Discovery already 5 miles in altitude, 8.5 miles downrange, traveling almost 1,000 miles an hour.
Discovery Houston, go with throttle up.
Roger, go ahead, throttle up.
The throttle up call acknowledged by Commander Mark Kelly, joined on the flight deck by pilot Ken Ham, flight engineer Ron Garrett, and mission specialist Karen Nyberg. Down on the middeck are Mike Fossum, Aki Hoshide, and Greg Chamitoff, heading for a half year on the International Space Station. One minute 45 seconds into the flight. Discovery 22 miles in altitude, 23 miles downrange, standing by for solid rocket booster separation.
Copy staging.
Booster officer confirms staging, a good solid rocket booster separation.
There's me go. Three lights. Yep. ET set. Yep. And this, I'm going off comm.
So there we were. We just took the most thrilling ride of our life, but we had a lot of work in front of us. We had to turn our rocket ship into a spaceship. Here's Mark doing a rendezvous burn very precisely because we have a long way to go. And as we get closer, we see our goal, their space station, and she's beautiful. At sunrise there coming up, first time we see all the beautiful colors. Here's Karen keeping us in line. And we show up underneath space station. She's huge. We're about 600 feet below her. And Mark leans over to me and he says the words that any person on an airplane doesn't want to hear.
Initiating RPM 3, 2, 1, mark.
He says, "Watch this." And he pulls back on the stick and says, "I'm going to do a loop." Okay. He'd get fired if he did that without telling anybody. So this is our little maneuver to look at the belly of the heat shield of Discovery. And it turned out she was in perfect condition, so we were happy for our ride home. We had a lot of work to go. And here comes the rest of Rendezvous. We're getting in here about 20 feet, a couple of minutes to docking. And we have gone, again, about 1 million miles down to a 3-inch tolerance. And here's Mark finishing up the rendezvous, precisely guiding the docking port
8 inches.
right in the heart.
0.09.
2 inches.
Capture light.
And there was much rejoicing.
And Houston and station capture confirmed.
All right.
All right.
I'll get on
What's
with
that?
hockey.
Hey. Thanks. It's a lot of training, man.
Good job, Mark.
Thank you.
That was a great flight.
Discovery arriving.
Hey, you guys looking for? Hey, you looking for a plumber? Sergey, how are you? Good. Hey, you guys. Great to see you. Hey, Ronnie, look back real quick.
Okay, after we get the hatches open, we all start heading on board.
On June 3rd, 2008, Mike Fossum and Ron Garan completed a 6-hour and 48-minute spacewalk, where they retrieved the orbital boom sensor system, serviced and inspected components of a solar alpha rotary joint, and prepared the JEM PS component of the Kibo laboratory for installation. Crew members Nyberg and Hoshide used the station's robotic arm and removed the JEM from the shuttle's payload bay and attached it to the Harmony module.
The maneuver, obviously, with such a big mass, had to go quite slow. It was about an hour of maneuver, but it was some great views while we did that. And of course, as we attached it onto the space station, it was a great day for the people in Japan. Another thing we needed to do with the robotic arm was move the logistics module. This is another piece that STS-123 brought up, and they had it temp stowed. So we slowly guided it over to its final resting position on top of the Japanese laboratory.
Once attached, the crew entered the JEM and began outfitting it.
After we got the Japanese module installed, we opened the hatch, and here's us putting a sign. It's a Japanese curtain. It just said, "Eat more chicken." And then after Karen and I checked out the air inside, everyone came inside, and especially Garrett enjoyed the moment, showing off all his skills that he learned through his expedition. After having some time of fun, we had to get back to work. We transferred 8 racks. These racks are like 500 pounds each. And this is a sign where the technicians on the ground put at the hatch for us. And we saw the Japanese module grow each day. It was empty, and then it was full of racks. And in the stowage module, it's empty now. And also in the Japanese module, we had 2 windows, which we looked outside every time that we had some free time. The view out there was magnificent.
On June 5th, Fossum and Garan completed the second STS-124 spacewalk, totaling 7 hours and 11 minutes. On flight day 9, Fossum and Garan conducted the third and final spacewalk, replacing an empty nitrogen tank and collecting a sample of debris from the solar array. On June 10th, after a farewell ceremony, the hatches between the station and Discovery were closed, and undocking occurred soon thereafter.
Physical sep. Houston and station from Discovery. Physical separation.
And now it's time to detach from station and head home.
You guys ready for a little theme music?
Yeah.
The crew then maneuvered around the station to take video and photographs.
And it's this music is actually for real. Garrett pulled this out and started rolling this in the cockpit, and it was a true surreal moment. It was a point in the mission where a lot of the stress of all the EVAs and the robotics and the assembly and all the tasks that we had trained for a long time, it was all behind us, and we could actually really, really enjoy the moment. That was us coming up on the western coast of South America, and now here we are over the Amazon jungle.
Nice choice.
Thanks.
And then there we are alone again.
And proof we're all kids at heart. There's a little Aki hockey. Little weightlifting. And more stupid tricks. We don't know what that is. Here's Garrett's or Ron's grouper impersonation. Don't do it. Oh, get him! Get him! It's proof we're really kids at heart. Little rugby on the middeck. Oh, we got. That was more of a mess than we hoped for. Here's Karen's cheating. She used her hand.
Tell me if I'm going to hit my head.
You're going to hit your head.
No commanders were harmed in the making of this video.
After a few days in orbit, Discovery fired its engines and returned back to runway 15 at the Kennedy Space Center.
So here we are entering the atmosphere, and you can tell out the window here it's pretty hot, about 5,000 degrees out there. Gravity's starting to set in here.
That was us slowing down from Mach 25 to Mach 1. We're gliding all the way from over the Indian Ocean, more or less, back home.
Houston, Discovery, runways in sight.
About 10 times steeper than an airliner.
Roger, runway in sight, Discovery.
Fortunately, our runway is 15,000 feet long. Touching down about...
Hold it right there. There you go.
200 knots.
There you go.
Touchdown, 195. Beautiful.
Parachute slows us down.
On September 1st, 2008, Progress M64 undocked from the Pierce module. It remained in orbit for 1 week and conducted experiments for the Plasma Progress program. On September 8th, 2008, Progress M64 was deorbited and burnt up over the Pacific Ocean. On September 5th, 2008, Jules Verne, the European ATV, undocked and maneuvered into an orbital position 5 kilometers below the ISS. Jules Verne remained in that orbit until the 9th of September 29th, when it started its first deorbit burn of 6 minutes, followed by a second burn of 15 minutes. And then Jules Verne re-entered the atmosphere at an altitude of 120 kilometers and completed its destructive re-entry as planned over the period of 11 minutes, depositing debris in the South Pacific Ocean southwest of Tahiti. On September 10, 2008, Progress M65 was launched by a Soyuz U-carrier rocket from Site 15 at Baikonur Cosmodrome. Docking had originally been scheduled after the 2-day rendezvous orbit on September 12th. However, Hurricane Ike forced NASA to close the Johnson Space Center and delayed the docking until September 17th, when Progress M65 finally docked with the aft port of the Zvezda module. On October 12, 2008, Soyuz TMA-13 launched atop a Soyuz FG rocket from Baikonur Cosmodrome, with Expedition 18 crew members Yuri Lonkanov and Michael Fink, along with space tourist Richard Garrett, son of a NASA astronaut Owen Garrett.
Prime and liftoff.
First stage engines should be at flight speed now. Liftoff. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket transporting Mike Fink, Yuri Lonchakov, and Richard Garrett to their home in space.
20 seconds. Engine of stage 1, stages 1 and 2, operate nominally.
Engines 1 and 2 operating nominally.
Launch structural parameters are nominal. Copy.
Good roll and pitch program according to flight controllers. Soyuz is heading toward a link-up with the International Space Station 2 days from now. Good first stage performance, the Soyuz delivering 102 pounds of thrust from its 4 boosters and single engine. First stage of the Soyuz is 68 feet in length, 24 feet in diameter as it burns for the first 2.
There is a good view of the Soyuz TMA-13, which is now currently about 800 meters away from the International Space Station, beginning a process that will ultimately lead it to a short fly-around to align its forward docking port precisely with the nadir or earthward-facing docking port of the Zarya module of the International Space Station. The view you're looking at is from an external camera on the Soyuz vehicle as it begins its final approach for a fly-around that will put it directly behind and in precise alignment with the Zarya module's docking port at a distance of about 100 meters or so for some 10 minutes of station keeping to enable Russian flight controllers to assess the precise alignment of the forward docking port of the Soyuz with that Zarya module docking port before the automated sequence will resume the final approach of the Soyuz for link-up at about 3:33 a.m. Central Time, 12:33 p.m. Moscow time today.
Getting close. Crosshairs in place. Target is moving somewhat to the right, downwards, the crosshairs.
10 meters away. Flight controller standing by for contact and capture of the International Space Station.
Target is back in the middle. In the middle. We have capture, we have indicator.
Docking confirmed.
Capture. Copy.
The International Space Station now in free drift.
After over a week together on the station, the Expedition 17 crew members Sergei Volkov and Oleg Kononenko, along with tourist Richard Garrett, entered Soyuz TMA-12 and undocked on October 24, 2008.
Physical separation confirmed at 7:16 p.m. Central Time as the International Space Station and the Soyuz TMA-12 now flying free passed over the Russian-Mongolian border.
Looking good. We're inaudible. Have you started the chips module? Yes. 24 seconds.
As you can see from the television being provided from the landing site in Kazakhstan, the clouds that had descended over the central steppes of Kazakhstan yielded to morning sunrise. The Soyuz capsule landed on its side, which is not unusual, as the parachutes pick up wind upon touchdown and drag the capsule off to its side.
Unlike the two previous Soyuz, Soyuz TMA-12 had no issues on re-entry, and it went perfectly nominally. Soyuz TMA-12 saw the joint landing of the world's first two second-generation space travels. Volkov's father, Alexander Volkov, flew to space 3 times and visited Salyut 7 and the Mir space station. Garrett's father, Owen Garrett, flew to space twice and visited the Skylab space station.
Astronaut Owen Garrett, wearing a red jacket bearing the patch of his first mission, which was the second manned Skylab mission in 1973. Garrett, a good view now of Owen Garrett on the right, shaking hands with his son, a second-generation space traveler, as is Sergei Volkov, who Garrett rode home with this evening to a landing about an hour and 25 minutes after sunrise Friday morning on the steppes of Kazakhstan.